What's going on, everybody? This is Brian Mazique, aka Unique Mazique, the hardest working man in sports and gaming. I am a fight guy, Forbes contributor, and I also write for Heavy.com. And I am joined today by fellow fight guy, fellow Forbes contributor, and boxing manager of the year candidate, Peter Kahn. What's going on today, Pete?
Hey, I'm all good. Everything's good. How are you doing?
I am doing fantastic. I do believe I've told you before the show started, I feel like I look a little younger today.
You do. You do look good. You look good. You look young. You look refreshed. All of it.
I don't know what it is. I don't know, but it's whatever it is good. So we are powered by Fight TV and presented by Bet Online. If you are watching us on Fight TV, which I'm hoping you are, or on your local cable provider, local satellite provider, make sure that you head over to YouTube and you subscribe to our YouTube channel. All you have to do is search The Fight Guys, find it, subscribe, click the notifications bell. On there, I'm actually in the process of breaking down every single UFC 249 bout, giving the odds and predictions according to Bet Online. So you don't want to miss that. Go ahead and subscribe for that, as well as additional combat sports content. And also, if you are watching this on Fight TV and you haven't subscribed to the app yet, you might want to do that too. That's an entirely different brand and collection of combat sports content. But without further ado, let's jump right into round one. All right, so we're going to start this off with some rumors.
Rumors.
Yes.
Boxing rumors.
You remember that song back in the day in the 80s?
I do.
All them rumors down to me every day. Oh, yeah. Oh, anyway. Yeah, but
you sing a lot. You know you sing a lot on the show. I wonder if that's like a dormant thing of yours.
I actually know it's not dormant.
You have a good voice. I've heard you sing.
I appreciate.
I think you want everyone else to. I think you want everyone else to hear you sing.
I sing everywhere I go.
I know, but they don't know your freestyle skills either.
Oh yeah, they don't know that. They don't know that. But I sing everywhere I go. So everybody who's around me any length of time has probably heard me sing.
But we digress.
We do. We digress, and I don't want to die.
Rumors.
So, yes. Let's go into the rumors. This is all we have right now, for the most part, in boxing until people start actually throwing hands again.
Right.
But this rumor is about a very prominent boxer potentially throwing hands sometime in the future or sometime this year. Longtime boxing professional Rick Glaser has been on this beat. And so we got to give him credit for being on this beat. He's been talking about this a lot. He said it's looking more like Floyd. Obviously, we're talking about Floyd Mayweather. Floyd-Broner fight is going to happen. Just got a call from someone, quote unquote, in the know about it, saying, Rick, how did you know that? I replied, this is a situation that I wish I was wrong. Shaking my head. Hashtag bad boxing. Hashtag boxing. So he's referring to someone asked him, how did you know that? Because he had an earlier tweet where he was saying that he'd heard that it was happening. So, I mean, the whole conversation around Floyd possibly coming back just never ends. It's an ongoing thing all the time. So I don't know. This is actually a fight that I predicted, I want to say maybe 5 to 6 years ago. And I said that it would be billed as like the student and the pupil, the person who tried to pattern themselves after Floyd and the whole nine. I'm gonna go deep into the hip hop world right now, Peter. So you stay.
Okay, go.
AZ, aka Anthony Cruz, came up with Nas. He first appeared on the Life's a B song. He had the first verse on there was visualizing the realism and life and actuality. It's awesome.
Right.
So he actually has a line in a song. He says, see me, I'm just as foul as you, but you don't got no style in you. And to me, I've always thought that line really kind of.
So it was like a diss track?
It wasn't a diss track. It's all hip hop almost is a diss track because you're dissing like this imaginary.
Well, was it geared towards someone specific?
No, it's always like you're talking about this imaginary foe that may or may not be there.
I didn't know if you were saying that it was against like Nas. You know what I'm saying? Like
it's not Nas. It wasn't against Nas. It wasn't against Nas. Him and Nas were cool, but this was, to me, I've always thought that line perfectly embodied Floyd and Broner.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Because it's almost like Broner comes out and he has this in your face kind of a persona. You know, that's the persona because it's not him. And if you've ever met him, you know that that's not generally how he is, like in normal conversation. But it's always like he's trying to be this as polarizing of a figure in the same way that Floyd is. He wants to be the villain. But what I think he always missed on is Floyd knew when to pull it back and knew when to handle business to make sure that in the ring, he was always successful. So to me, I think that part where, see me, I'm just as foul as you, but you don't have no style in you. You don't have the style. You don't have the refinement to really pull off this persona that you're trying to pull off. And so based on that whole entire concept, I was like, there's a fight that could be built using that as because promotion is storytelling when you do it really well.
Right.
You know, and so if you're going to promote a fight, you need to tell a story. And there's a story there to be told if they did it properly, which could mask the fact that Broner hasn't fought or beaten anybody in a long time, and that Floyd probably shouldn't still be fighting.
Right.
But if you tell the story properly, I know that people would be engaged. What do you think about that?
So let's give a little bit of context, first of all. Okay, so let's two things. One, 5 or 6 years ago, it could have been a little bit more compelling and sellable.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's number one. Number two, giving some context to Rick Glazer. For people that don't know, you know, Rick is an insider. Rick is a part of boxing that is a necessity. He knows every opponent that exists. He often supplies a lot of opponents for a lot of shows. He also provides a lot of sparring for world champions and, you know, high-level contenders. So, you know, it's not a stretch that Rick might have gotten wind of something. You know, maybe there's been talk about potential sparring necessities. Maybe there's been talk of this guy talks to that guy that gets back to Rick. Like I said, he's probably talking 15 hours a day to boxing people, you know, from the grassroots level up. So the fact is right now, I think like Rick's the only person that is talked about, right? Like it hasn't been by anyone. Broner hasn't said anything. No. Floyd hasn't, like no one said anything. So here's the thing. Normally, when something is untrue, someone automatically comes out and goes, no. Like, you know, they refute it because it's really not true. And we can, you know, we'll be talking about another topic later where I can say to you, hey, this rumor it's not true. So the fact that in a few days, because I know that he's put this out there a few days ago on Twitter, and then he's doubled down on it. Now basically saying that someone called him or messaged him to validate his what he heard by saying, how did you know about that?
Right.
Leads me to believe maybe there is some validity to it. I have no idea. I haven't talked to anybody. I wouldn't know. But at this stage of the game, let's just, you know, it's interesting, right? Because the only person that has anything to gain is Adrian Broner. Floyd has nothing to gain by fighting Broner.
Right. Certainly not from a legacy standpoint, but
it's all risk. It's all risk. And the other thing is, if you really believe that Floyd does care about Adrian Broner, like we've seen in time of need, where he's kind of taken him under his wing, I think, and shown some emotional support, it might be hard to sell any fight based around bad blood.
You know, I don't know that you have to sell it as bad blood.
Well, I'm just saying to have some sort. I'm trying to say, like, what other reason would you really want to see that fight?
The biggest reason, honestly, and it is going to be a mudslinging trash type of and when I say trash, I don't mean trash like
I know promotionally.
Yeah, that's the
dialogue.
That's what it's going to be. And that there is a large group that will follow and will get into that, especially if that promotion starts anytime in the next month or so when we still don't have live fights. I mean, I'm assuming we probably get our first live boxing show in the middle to end of June at maybe beginning of July. So if there could actually be some legitimate confirmation that this is going to happen in September, and then people start talking about it or validating it soon, then it still has some time to build. I could even see Floyd doing something like the first night boxing comes back, he comes and announces, yeah, I'm fighting Broner. Right. I could totally see Floyd doing that.
Right. So let me say, there's something I've learned over the past few years. Mm-hmm. And that is not to underestimate Adrian Broner's draw.
Oh, I definitely have learned that.
So that's number one. I think he still brings the biggest numbers on Showtime.
Yes.
And so that's one. Don't underestimate that, right? Mm-hmm. And the other thing is Floyd brings them no matter what.
No matter what.
So with the current climate being that people would be hungry for boxing to come back and to have some big fights, maybe sometimes it just is what it is.
Yeah, it is. And this is simply
exactly Floyd's taking risk.
Yes.
Because if Floyd does lose, he's just given Broner a real second lease on his career at only 30 years old. And
maybe that's what he's willing to sacrifice, because
he'll make some money.
And he'll make some good money.
But he's not going to sacrifice a loss. Not for anybody.
It doesn't.
But you know what I'm saying?
It doesn't feel like he would. But if he did, perhaps Broner is the guy that he'd be willing to put over in that way. And I hate to use a wrestling term as if it's scripted, but that's essentially what it's kind of like when you look at it, because promotion. Yeah. I know people sometimes hate the mentions of professional wrestling when we're talking about MMA and boxing, but promotion is promotion, and the status levels of the stars are somewhat, similar. So when you have a legend like a Floyd, you can kind of compare him to someone who's like the Undertaker or something to that effect. Mm-hmm. And a guy on the Undertaker's level would have say over whether he loses to this particular guy or not. And obviously not saying that Floyd would go in there to lose.
Floyd's not. But wrestling's fake. Wrestling's fake.
Listen to what I'm saying. I've already covered that, and I'm saying something else now. What I'm saying is, obviously Floyd's not going to go in there and say I'm going to lose. But whenever you are taking a risk, you are understanding that there is a chance. So you're with Floyd being a person who is going to take all factors into consideration, to look and say, okay, obviously I don't want to lose, but if I had to lose, is this a fight or is this an opponent that I could take losing to if I did? So I'm not saying that that's the mindset. I'm saying
it's not
a permissible mindset.
Well, it's not the mindset, and Floyd wouldn't be getting into a fight to help progress the rest of Adrian Broner's career. And he wouldn't be risking his legacy, which is extremely important to him.
Yeah, I have some reason to believe that perhaps some of Floyd's motivation and some piece of what makes Floyd tick has somewhat changed recently. And I'm not trying to say he's Manny Pacquiao now, mm-hmm. but based off what has happened with mm-hmm. him in the first portion of this year, I'm not sure that the same things that were driving him are all the same things that have driven that will drive him now. So I'm just saying, and like I said, I would never suggest that he's going to go out there to lose. I don't think he would do that. I just don't. I think he's too much of a competitor to do that. But perhaps he is willing to take a little bit more of a risk. Perhaps he is looking to actually not necessarily control every single aspect of it. And so when you do that, you're putting yourself in a more of a position to potentially take an L. I would still favor Floyd if he trains to beat Broner, but it's a fight and we'll see what happens. But
yeah. I mean, look, if Rick's willing to reveal his source, then we can have him on here and he can reveal it and tell us why it's happening.
Right.
But other than that, it's just Twitter.
It's just Twitter. It's just Twitter. But sometimes certain people's Twitter drives a little bit more information.
Yeah. Hashtag quarantine crazy. Although it's not that Rick's not getting credible information, it just might be accurate information.
Right. It could come from a credible person, but it could be inaccurate. Exactly.
Right.
You're right. So let's jump into our first Between the Rounds. All right. So we're talking about legends who are retired. So we're going to talk about another legend who, I don't know what Mike Tyson is doing right now. I really don't. I know that if you take a look at the way Mike Tyson looks right now, he looks about as in greater shape as a 53-year-old man can look, just about, for a 5'11" frame that's usually used to carrying 200 to 225 pounds. Right. I mean, he is in some sick shape right now. I don't know what he's training for. There's been some talk about him doing 4-round exhibitions or whatever. I know George Foreman came out and said, I really don't want you to do that, Mike. I hope you've already done enough in the sport. It hasn't happened. So I don't know. I don't know what the validity is with this. I'm going to tell you right now, I almost feel like as magnetic as Mike Tyson is, and as big of a star as he is, Mike Tyson is one of those dudes. I've been in the room with him, with you and I there at the ranch, and I'm going to tell you, he walks in just as quiet as ever, but when he walks in the room, somebody just walked in the room. So he has that absolute appeal. Right. But he's 53. And more than I want to see him perform, I'm more concerned with, I don't want to see him do anything that it gets him hurt. Right. Just overall. And call me crazy. I mean, I grew up on Mike for the most part, and it just is what it is. So I don't know what the deal is with this. I don't know what the deal is with the exhibition fights, but that is a talk that's going on. I want to hear what you have to say in the championship rounds for sure. But Mike looks like he's training for something. I don't know if he's going to go and participate in the Iditarod or something. I don't know, but he looks like he's training for something. So let's go ahead and jump to round 2. All right, so we got some information on Andy Ruiz, his next trainer. He had been kind of seeming like he was trying to connect with Canelo before the first and second Anthony Joshua fight. And it seemed like one of those friendships where one guy thinks that they're closer than the other guy. That's what it looked like to me. That's just my opinion. But there is something that's happening right now that would make you think there's a deeper connection. Andy Ruiz has announced that his new trainer is now Canelo's current trainer, which is Eddie Reynoso, also won Trainer of the Year. He gets rid of Manny Robles. I don't know, man. What do you think about this? I mean, I have my thoughts on it, but I want to know what you say about this switch and this announcement.
I mean, look, this is boxing, okay? And this type of stuff happens all the time. It's funny you say that. I checked in on Manny Robles a couple days ago. Just see how he's doing. Checked in on him, coronavirus check-in. Right. See how we didn't talk boxing, just, hey, how are you? How's your family? What you up to? And just well wishes. And look, fighters make changes when they lose. Some fighters accept that they were the problem and they make the change because they just feel like maybe the other person said something or did something that offended them, didn't have their back, and they make that change.
And sometimes they get rid of the snakes and they can't.
Sometimes, they just feel like they can't accept the loss, and that somehow by switching trainers, they're diverting the blame to the trainer, saying, well, there must have been something going on that it's the trainer. I'm like, this is my philosophy. Manny Robles is a heck of a trainer.
Yes.
So much so that Ruiz didn't beat Joshua on June 1st of last year with a lucky punch.
No.
He beat him by being in shape, being able to get off the canvas after being knocked down, capable of still implementing the game plan. He was a game in shape fighter. He did have a short camp because he was coming off of another fight. So that activity helped him. He didn't have enough time to get out of shape, and he did train, and they did come with a game plan, and he executed it. He won, and it was the biggest upset of the year and the biggest upset in quite some time.
Yeah, in heavyweight boxing.
Okay, maybe right up there with Tyson Douglas.
Yes.
Okay.
Close.
So the rematch. Manny Robles only said good things about Andy Ruiz always.
Until after.
Then Ruiz shows up out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't perform. I mean, look, he still made it through a 12-round fight.
Mm-hmm.
Joshua could not stop him.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even believe he was knocked down in that fight.
No, he was hit solidly alive, but not.
All right, that was on December 7th. Didn't go down.
Yeah.
But the point that I'm making is, it seemed to me that Ruiz was out of shape.
Mm-hmm.
And then Robles sort of intimated, because he also has to protect himself, that Ruiz didn't take it seriously. I'm paraphrasing here. Didn't take it seriously and didn't put the best effort in preparing. Now, only the two of them know the truth about that.
Mm-hmm.
But nonetheless, something has inspired Andrew Ruiz to now go where the grass is greener. And if you're going to do that, you're finding another Mexican trainer.
Right. And I was going to say that definitely seems like that's a factor.
Who happens to be the trainer of the year and the trainer of the biggest name in the sport. Mm-hmm. So, look, I'll say it again, Manny Robles, heck of a trainer. Mm-hmm. This is no reflection on him, in my opinion. This is just Andrew Ruiz living his life, making his decisions. It's his decision. And this is what he's choosing to do. He's choosing to switch things up, and he'll call this the comeback. And we'll see what happens the next time he fights. Mm-hmm. And that's what's going to validate this whole situation. If he shows up in the best shape of his life and puts on a performance against a top heavyweight, then we can say, well, you know what? Maybe this change of scenery has worked for him. Mm-hmm. But if it's the same Andrew Ruiz that showed up in the Joshua rematch, then maybe it could be a discipline issue with Ruiz. But we also have to remember, Ruiz has been a really good heavyweight. Like I said in a previous show, the loss to Joe Parker can be disputed.
Yeah.
Which means the only loss of his career, if you really look at it, was the rematch, which he wasn't 100% Andy Ruiz.
Right, but this is obviously all on him is the reason why he wasn't. But yeah.
What I'm saying is, him switching trainers sort of gives the impression with this narrative from him that maybe he's blaming his trainer as part of that. You follow me? You don't switch trainers if it's working and you can accept responsibility. Maybe he's pawning that off by making this change because I don't know, with the amount of professional fights that Andy Ruiz has had, you're not teaching him anything new. It's just a matter of getting him prepared to fight.
Yeah. What I think it is I do think that Manny Robles is kind of like the de facto scapegoat here. Right. Because I don't necessarily think that he's saying, you cost me this, it's because of you. But when you make a change, that's what people are going to think, especially if, like you said, if you make a change.
It's the aesthetics, right?
After a loss, right? I think Andy Ruiz was 300 pounds. Right. When he showed up to fight Joshua. Right. He knows good and well that is not, you're not in condition to fight at a world-class level as heavy as you were. You weren't in optimal shape when you pulled the upset. I believe there were circumstances involved with that, on top of the fact that you were prepared, on top of the fact that you have some skill. But I don't think that Joshua was 100% himself going into that fight. I don't. But Robles prepared you and you got it done. And I think it could have been the worst thing in some ways, not obviously from a monetary standpoint, because Ruiz earned money that is insane. He got the second payday out of it. But from an overall standpoint, it could have been the worst thing that could have happened to Ruiz, because sometimes the worst thing that can happen to somebody is for you to get success without giving your best. Because when you experience success without giving 100%, it starts to make you believe that you can continue to do that and continue to get success. When in actuality, you won that fight, yes, because of your skill, and yes, because you had a trainer here that had you prepared, but you also fought a compromised guy more than likely.
Okay, but you gotta let me jump in here.
Okay.
I also think that that's diminishing the victory. And I think we don't know. Like we're just making assumptions based on stories that came out afterwards that could have been used by another fighter to justify a loss.
Of course, and I prefaced my point by saying that this is what I think.
Right.
You know, that he was a compromised fighter.
Right.
So
but that was a narrative that was spun after the loss.
It was a narrative that was spun after the loss, but actually, no, the conversation started before the loss. There was something that came from Anthony Joshua's dad that said that my son had been concussed during training camp, and that came out before the fight. So that was like the week of the fight, because I wrote a story for Forbes that said that people were questioning Anthony Joshua's mind state and mental state coming into the fight. And that was a part of that entire story. So that didn't start after the fight. That talk started before. And of course, it got validated because of what happened. But at any rate, either way, whether or not we have valid proof of that, that's not the point. The point is that that's what I believe based off of what I saw and how the fight actually transpired. Even forgetting all that, because it got me sidetracked a little bit over towards the point I was making. You had success in a situation. You cannot get past the fact that as a fighter, you have a responsibility to stay within a reasonable conditioning level. Andy Ruiz appears as though he's someone who is trying to skirt that responsibility. He's trying to avoid adopting some level of nutritional program that keeps him from blowing up to something that is just not optimal. It doesn't matter that because your hands are so fast and because you have solid footwork that, I can sometimes make up for the fact that I'm chubby. The point of it is if you were in better shape, all of those skills would only be augmented. And it seems to me that he's trying to achieve through the poor conditioning as opposed to conditioning and then seeing what his best actually can be.
Brian, but I think that when we talk about Andy Ruiz, we have to realize, look at the baseline for him. The way he looks is not indicative of his conditioning. You understand? He's always been heavy.
I understand that, but it's just not logical to think that. See, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Just because he can perform well at the way he is doesn't mean that he can't perform better.
But that just might be conditioning. But I don't know if he's in worse conditioning. He might be heavier, but I don't know if his conditioning is worse.
On what planet does
Brian? He's never been from day one.
As usual, you're missing the point.
But
what I'm saying to you is
you're saying he has to look the part to be the part.
I'm not saying that.
But how do you know what his conditioning level was?
Here's the thing. First of all, he was not nearly as busy in the second fight as he was in the first fight. Didn't throw nearly as many shots.
Guy fought 12 rounds with Anthony Joshua.
He even said himself, I was not in the best. I guess I could have lost a little more weight. You think?
Well, yeah. Okay. You're like Captain Obvious now. We know this.
Exactly. So this is my point. So it is Captain Obvious.
But conditioning, that doesn't mean conditioning. Weight and conditioning are not related. Weight and conditioning are not related.
So you're telling
take it from me. I'm in the gym with these guys every day.
I don't care whose gym you're in.
But listen. But you know what I'm saying. You're talking about weight and conditioning. They're two different things.
No, I'm talking about Andy Ruiz.
You're being 300 pounds. Not being conditioned.
So I'm telling you, so you're telling me that a 260-pound Andy Ruiz will not be a better conditioned athlete than a 300-pound Andy Ruiz. That's why. That's the whole point.
Could be. They could be equally conditioned.
Okay.
But he's just heavier. Okay. So he could have the same level of conditioning.
Manny Robles would
listen, it's no different, but it's just, you understand that it's no different than when a fighter thinks they needed to put on more weight to be more effective, right? Like when Deontay thought he needed to come in heavier. Remember? He wanted to come in heavier in the second. Does a heavier Deontay equal a less conditioned? It doesn't equate. In Andy Ruiz's state,
you could make the argument.
No, you don't know. But listen, there's too many other factors with Deontay. But it's not
even just about conditioning. It's about effectiveness. And then we're also talking about somebody who's going from Deontay Wilder is a thin heavyweight.
Right. Listen, has Andy Ruiz ever been out of shape? Has Andy Ruiz ever looked in shape to you? Aesthetically, he's never looked in shape.
But you're okay. But
it doesn't affect his conditioning.
Open up the thought. Okay. Just because he has never looked that way does not mean that there is not a higher place for him to go.
How do you know?
Because it would seem to me
he's been fighting his whole life. He can't shake that. How do you know that's not who he is?
Shake it. He can't. So he's just meant to be overweight.
Maybe.
Okay.
I'm just saying, like, what I'm saying is since 16 years old, nothing's really changed.
Right. His diet.
But how do you know? How do you know? How do you know?
He says it.
So how is Reynoso going to affect his diet?
Manny Robles literally said that it's what he wants.
But he's been doing it his whole career and in amateurs. So what I'm saying to you is, but he won that. Listen, no, I'm not, because how is Reynoso going to have how is that going to be different?
Who said that? I didn't say any of that. All I'm saying is if Andy Ruiz in shape, in better shape, would conceptually equate to somebody who is more effective with the same skills that he already has. It's insane that you're literally sitting up here making the argument that a heavy, overweight guy can come in and go, don't make any sense for me to lose weight and get in shape. I'm gonna be the same guy anyway.
Let me ask you something.
If a fighter told you that in your camp, you'd be like, dude, what?
Listen, I would look at the history of this person. And it's always been the case for Andy Ruiz. I'm not talking, this isn't somebody that was in what is considered, right, to be standard, shredded, look the part, shape. Okay.
I'm not saying he got to be look like Deontay Wilder. That's not what I'm saying.
But what I'm saying is, look, we don't know. I mean, he still went 36 minutes with Joshua in the rematch and never hit the canvas.
That's because of
2020 something gifts. That could be because of conditioning, dude, as well.
No, that's because of his physical gifts and because of his overall toughness.
Wait, now his physical gifts.
Yes, he's quick. He has great feet. He has quick hands. He can.
But what would you say allows you to go 36 minutes in that environment, which name all the fighters that couldn't do that with Joshua? There is a level of strong conditioning that goes along with that. Look, we're going to do a whole show on round two.
This is why I say you're missing the point. This is why I say that, because I am not saying that he does not have any conditioning. What I am saying is if he were in better shape, he could have better conditioning. He could be more effective.
Brian, this is a guy that leading into the fight had a Snickers bar as his Snickers bar was on his Twitter.
You repeating how many minutes he fought doesn't prove anything.
What was his photo on Twitter going into the first Joshua fight?
His what?
The photo on his Twitter going into the first. It was Snickers.
Proving my
point. Nothing. No, it's not. His effectiveness, his entire career has been the same.
I would love to see what Manny Robles says.
We'll get Manny on.
Yeah. And
we'll get Manny on.
If there's any,
I will eat crow if Manny suggests different. I'll eat crow.
A fork and a napkin, because it's gonna be some crow 8,
and vice versa.
No, it won't be, because this is an insane concept.
We're bringing Manny on strictly to argue this point.
Please, me and Manny connected in the lobby in LA anyway, so we both talked about.
I'm glad to hear it.
Yeah, we both talked about not wanting to go to Saudi Arabia because we were scared for how we're going to treat brown people. So, so we already connected. So he's going to be on my side. Let's go to the between the rounds. This guy's in freaking sane today.
All right. So here's what I have.
No, well, hang on. David, wait for the cue.
Now here's what I have. Listen, I want to talk about 5 of the hardest punching fighters in boxing historically. And then I want to see what you think later on in the championship rounds.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. So this is my list. Feel free to leave comments, which I know you all will.
Yeah,
with your own list.
I'm going to.
Okay. And when you go in there right now. And when you leave your list, you don't have to tell me that my list is wrong.
You do.
Just tell me why you think your list is right.
You should subscribe and then tell him that his list is wrong.
Please subscribe and get the alerts so you know when we have new videos up, because we're going to be doing a lot of content. All right.
Yes.
So I'm going to go in no particular order. My top 5.
Get him.
Mike Tyson. Okay. From a heavyweight perspective, just one of the hardest punchers in the history of boxing.
Yes.
I'm then going to go with Julian Jackson, the Hawk. Probably had, I would say, 73 to 75% knockout ratio, but some of them were just devastating.
I'm telling you.
Maybe 80%. I don't even know, but devastating. Okay. Then let's go to the lower weights and let's look at Ricardo El Finito Lopez. Another guy, I think he was 51-0 in one draw, probably close to 83% or so with a KO ratio, if I had to guess. Now we're going to go to Randall Bailey, the KO king, who is hovering probably at 70% KO ratio. But some of those knockouts were devastating knockouts, and this just goes in that natural power category. And I'm going to round it out with someone that I know has a 93% KO ratio, who we've seen, with just devastating punching power, which is Deontay Wilder. So those are my 5, and I'd love to hear your 5 in the championship rounds.
You will get them. You will get them. But let's go into round 3. All right, people, it's time to ask the fight guys. Hashtag ask the fight guys. Please use it on YouTube, use it on Twitter, but use it, please. All right, but we're going to go into this one. Ask the fight guys. This one comes from Lion Killer LC, and he's responding to our biggest underachievers concept that we did on the last show. And he chimes in. He says, Abea Bucci is definitely number 1 on my heavyweight list of underachievers. If not for his issues, he could have potentially been undisputed. A 6'3" Mike Tyson with incredible stamina, power, ability, and punch resistance. Yeah, Lion Killer. Peter doesn't agree with us because he doesn't think that going to prison.
It doesn't matter. You know what? It doesn't matter. With my athleticism at 6'7", I would have been an NBA star. But you know what? I underachieved because I'm 5'9.5".
So he doesn't think that going to prison.
Did you hear what I just said? Did you hear what I just said? If I was 6'7" with my athleticism,
yes,
okay, and my competitiveness and my mindset, I would have been an NBA star.
Right.
But I'm 5'9.5", so I underachieved.
Yeah, but see, you were
born. My parents underachieved.
You were born 5'9". Abea Bucci wasn't born in prison.
Oh, listen to me. But it has nothing to do with. Listen, I understand what you guys are saying. Okay, he underachieved because he ended up in prison. But what I'm saying is that I don't necessarily think he would have underachieved if we would have actually gotten to see him fight. It's just an argument where. Listen, I think there are some good arguments that are made with some people that actually list guys that had an entire career and never lived up to the expectations. They underachieved. But look, you know what? You guys want to say he underachieved? He underachieved. If that'll make you feel better about life, okay? All right, if that'll make you feel better about life. He underachieved. He underachieved. And you know what?
Not life.
Throw Andy Ruiz in there.
Yeah,
He
right.
underachieved because he's not conditioned. Whatever makes you happy. Whatever delusional planet.
Underachieved.
Hashtag quarantine crazy.
If you ask his nutritionist, he has underachieved.
I'll just agree with the regular people.
Underachieved. You know what you are.
Lion killer, you're right. If he was 6'3",
a nutritional
and didn't go to prison, he would have done it.
That's going to be the new politically correct way to describe obese people. You're a nutritional underachiever.
You know what we're going to do? I'm going to get Andy on the show. That's what we're going to do.
Get him on.
And you go, Mr. Ruiz.
No, you don't know me.
Well, we'll see.
You don't know me.
We'll see.
I do that for nobody.
Mm-hmm.
That's so. It does not matter to me. Yeah, it wouldn't bother me.
All right. So listen, apparently Ike Abeabuchi was a hot button for a lot of guys.
Because
it was a frustrating story. It was a frustrating story. It was a frustrating story.
Yeah,
really frustrating scenario.
Fighter. And I remember when I first got a wind of him, and I was like,
yeah. Listen, I believe, and maybe I'm wrong, but I believe Cedric Kushner might have even promoted him. I don't even remember who promoted him at the time. It might have been Cedric.
Sounds right. I think that is.
And it was just like Cedric couldn't get a break. I mean, he had the next heavyweight champion of the world. Yeah.
No, I mean, it was going to be, I thought it was going to be an awesome story.
Yeah.
An African-born heavyweight champion of the world who was just, I mean, the excitement that Francis Ngannou kind of generates in mixed martial arts.
Right. Well, there were other African-born heavyweight champions of the world.
Henry Akinwande.
Right. Henry is one.
Yeah. Heavyweight champions of the world?
Well, Henry was a heavyweight champion.
I was talking about outside of Henry Akinwande.
There might be one more.
Yeah.
I think we just might be overlooking.
I know there's plenty in other weight classes.
Oh, yeah. But I mean, but Henry for sure. He was a WBO champion. But
think of what other.
We got to go back and look. There might have been.
Yeah. That
even if it was for a minute.
Right. To me, that's kind of why I was like, that really drew. And he just had a ferocity. In the way that he fought, that was just it drew your eye.
Yeah, we could agree
right there.
Yeah,
and then
we could agree he was going to become heavyweight champion.
He was, yeah.
He just circumstances outside of the ring derailed his career.
Yeah, it's almost.
That as of last year, he was talking about resuming when he came out.
Yeah, I heard that. It didn't like.
It'd never be the same.
Yeah, I like that. I didn't like that either.
Yeah.
But it's almost, and obviously it's not this drastic,
right?
It's almost like Len Bias almost.
I think Ike would appreciate the fact that I'm saying he didn't underachieve. I honestly think that, because I think he would agree, because in his mind, going to prison didn't allow him to fulfill his destiny. Unfortunately,
I agree that it didn't allow him to fulfill his destiny, but I don't think that necessarily means that he doesn't. Like we said the last time, I think it really comes down to your definition of achievement.
So what about Len Bias?
Len Bias, most people know.
Well, you got to give some context for the younger listeners, for the younger watchers.
That's what I'm about to do. Okay. Most people realize if you were paying attention to basketball in the mid to early 80s, Len Bias was a fantastic basketball player for University of Maryland. He would rival Michael Jordan during those ACC contests with Maryland and North Carolina. And he came out, he was drafted, I think it was 4th or 5th overall by the Boston Celtics in 1986. And he tragically passed away after a freak reaction to cocaine. It was a part of a draft night celebration that he had, and family and friends and everybody said he was not a partier normally, just something he did, I guess, to, according to them, to celebrate the what had happened. And he passed away. And so, like most people, when you talk about like some of the biggest basketball and sports tragedies ever, that one comes up.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't talk about Ike Abeabuchi because there is no college platform or college
Right.
level platform like that for him to have performed on a national television standpoint. He wasn't American. Boxing isn't in the same category of mainstream sports like basketball. But if you look at the trek and where he was headed, and if you talk to people who really know boxing, almost to a person, they will tell you that this dude was going to be
Absolutely
heavyweight champion of the world. So, when you equate all of that stuff together and you look at how it ended, now thank God he is alive. So that automatically makes it not as grim a story as Len Bias. But from a pure sports standpoint, we didn't get a chance to see what Ike Ibeabuchi was really going to be, because he could have been a world champion that defended his title successfully multiple times. We may have been you never know. The way Mike Tyson walks in a room and that somebody just walked in. Ike Ibeabuchi may have a similar type of a presence, but we just didn't get a chance to see it. So that's the whole thing. So it's definitely a tough, nasty story for sure. All right, let's go into our championship.
Wait, that was it? That was our only Ask the Fight Guys?
That's our only Ask the Fight Guys for today. We had a lot of stuff that was kind of more or less like retread over things that we talked about before. So,
all right. Like Ike wasn't. Yeah, like Ike wasn't. But anyway,
well, we
move on.
Only talked about Ike last time.
Right.
So, and we love Lion Killer. So we want to get Lion Killer some love for sure.
Of course. It's great.
So, all right. So championship rounds, you go on Mike Tyson.
I mean, look, who doesn't love to see Mike Tyson in shape, hitting those mitts, moving, in a way that, gives you this. Mike Tyson is just one of those legendary, iconic figures in all of sport. And, the idea and the romanticism of him coming back and fighting in any capacity is like if Dan Marino would come back and play for the Dolphins, if you're a Dolphin fan, right? Like it's just one of those things where Mike is bigger than boxing. He transcends boxing. He was a one of a kind. There was a time where he truly was the baddest man on the planet. Everyone in the world knew who he was. The idea that he's in shape is fantastic. The idea that he says he wants to do some exhibitions. I think people's imaginations are running wild. I think that Mike's idea of an exhibition might be different than the general public's idea of an exhibition. His idea of an exhibition might be moving around for 4 rounds, having fun, showing off his skills. And, I really don't know. I mean,
allowing people to wonder.
I don't know, because I don't know who he would fight in a compelling. You're not going to get an Anthony Joshua. Listen, I know I don't want people to think I'm crazy, okay? Because I don't even think Mike's talking about stuff like that, right? So I don't want to confuse what we're saying here. I don't think he's saying that he wants to do these ultra competitive, contemporary peer-based type of fights. I think he's just talking about doing some, like he said, exhibitions where people could see Mike Tyson in something competitive, but it wouldn't. It's hard to understand who his potential opponents could be because of his age, and you look, he might be in far better mental and physical shape than someone else at 53 that's a former fighter. You know what I mean? So it's but is he then fighting someone half his age? Is he fighting someone in their 30s? And what the end game is, but the one thing is that it had the internet going crazy. People were just, because people like to see their heroes, and they just, even if it's like being able to go back for one night, for people to be able to be transported back in time and see Mike fight, they do it. They buy it.
Yeah, well,
it's Mike.
How about since we're just talking crazy?
Yeah.
Somebody call Mitch Green.
Listen, but I'm not saying what I'm saying is I think that they've been very careful to express that he has a desire to fight exhibitions.
Mm-hmm.
He's not talking about fighting for the heavyweight championship. He's just saying, look, I'm getting in shape, and we don't even know the extent.
Yeah, he might just get in the ring and jump, skip rope. He might do
and he might fight a 4-rounder, but who does he fight? That the more compelling question to me is, from a competitive standpoint, who do you fight?
And I would think that there's a big draw just to see Mike walk into the ring.
Right.
If he shaves off the gray, walks in with the classic black trunks, classic black boots,
no robes, no socks, no mercy,
in shape, like the imagery that would create. I think people would just go for that. So I think it would be interesting.
And look, I like the idea that he tempered expectations. No, listen, I like the idea that he tempered expectations by saying a 4-round exhibition. Yeah. Limits it to 12 minutes of work.
Yeah. Mike's my guy. I love him. And I would prefer not to see him get punched in the face. But, if he wants to get punched in the face, I guess. But
how do you know he's going to get hit?
You're right. He might. Yeah, I don't know. I just don't want to see him get punched in the face. It's just me. That's just me. But, I'm sure not everybody feels that way. Let's go to our second championship round.
Okay, I'm curious to see who you got.
Okay. Top 5 punchers.
Yeah.
And I will not necessarily do this in order.
Right.
But let's start with where we are
aligned.
We are aligned. Wait a minute. Who was your guys? You had Deontay, Julian Jackson, Mike
Tyson, Ricardo Lopez, and Randall Bailey.
Okay. All right. So we're only aligned on 3.
Okay. Still good.
All right. So Deontay Wilder. Absolutely. 100%.
Okay.
Deontay Wilder is, in my opinion, the most devastating puncher I have ever seen, period.
Right.
I've just never seen anybody. Well, he's the most devastating heavyweight puncher I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. The second one where we're aligned, I think, is the most devastating puncher that I've ever seen, and that's Julian Jackson. Mm-hmm. So just to to kind of throw some numbers out there, Deontay is 42-1-1 with 41 knockouts, 93.1% KO.
Okay,
which is crazy. Julian Jackson 55-6. Coincidentally, or maybe not so coincidentally, all 6 of his losses are stoppage losses. But 55-6 with 49 knockouts and 80% KO rate. That's pretty. 49 knockouts and 55 fights is really pretty significant for a guy who fought at middleweight and super welterweight. Mm-hmm. I mean, you are cracking. Mm-hmm. The third person where we are aligned is the person who we've been talking about quite a bit today, Mike Tyson. Mm-hmm. 50-6, 5 of his losses are back KO with 44 knockouts. I mean, I would say Mike Tyson is the most charismatic KO artist in the history of the sport. It's just something about a Mike Tyson finish that is unlike anybody else's finish. And I don't know what it is. I mean, what other fighter in boxing history inspired a Street Fighter character? I mean, it's just, right. Because for anybody that doesn't know, Balrog on Street Fighter is made after Mike Tyson. So, right. So I wasn't talking about Mike Tyson Punch Out. I'm literally talking about Street Fighter, the character that's based right. off of Mike Tyson. So he's the most charismatic, polarizing KO artist. But where we're different, I guess mine is leaning a bit heavier on the heavyweight division, which is, I guess kind of sensible in some ways. George Foreman, 76-5, 68 knockouts, a shade under 84% KO rate. Yep. My dad used to tell me something about George Foreman, and I didn't see it until I had an opportunity to watch the Joe Frazier fight from front to back, and there was another fight. I can't remember which one it was that I saw. But my dad used to tell me, he said, George Foreman is the only dude I've ever seen that knock guys out with a glancing blow. Like it just knock you out with a shot that just seemingly, didn't really catch that flush. Honestly, the knockout shot against Michael Moorer was flush. But when it landed, it didn't look like it had done as much damage.
It looked pushed.
It didn't look like, but when Mike lays down and then you see his face, I'm like, whoa, that just busted his nose.
Right.
You know, so
Or his lip, yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was his nose was bleeding too. I don't know, I can't remember. I thought his nose was bleeding, but it was crazy. It's just crazy. And for him to have that kind of
heavy-handed,
super heavy-handed, for him to have that kind of torque in his mid 40s is pretty significant. But the other guy that I have, and many heavyweights who fought him will vouch for this, is Ernie Shavers.
Okay.
Both Muhammad Ali and Larry Holmes both said the hardest puncher they ever faced was Ernie Shavers, aka the Black Destroyer. 74-14 with one draw, 68 knockouts. Now, if you consider the competition that he faced and some of the people that he finished over the course of his career, we're talking about some people who were, you know, he's got a good number of people on his record who he was either the first person to ever stop or the only person to ever stop. And to me, that sort of thing really speaks to a certain level of power, because if you're able to get a guy out that nobody else could, or if you were able to get a guy out of there who had demonstrated a great chin up until that point, right? And after that, now people start seeming to be able to get to him. That says a lot to me for the punching power, and Ernie Shavers has a few of those on his record. So those are my 5.
Yeah, there's so many, right? I mean, there's so many. I wonder what everyone else thinks, because Foreman definitely, I mean, so heavy-handed. Shavers, same thing. I mean, there's just so many. I mean, I like my list, but I could probably give you 5 more.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, 100%. 100%. I mean, there's so many people who just absolute deleters as puncher. Just looks like you just tranquilize guys.
What was Roy's KO ratio? What was his percentage? I'm curious.
I'm going to look it up. I'm going to guess before I pull it up, and I'm going to say 72 or 67%.
It's got it.
I'm going to say 67%.
It's got to be over 70.
62.6.
You know why?
Because he fought.
All right. Yeah. Okay. So I was going to say, if we end it at a reasonable, I mean,
if you ended in 03, which is about when it should have probably
ended after the third Tarver fight.
Yeah. The majority decision victory over Tarver, which was 03, November of 2000.
No, I'm saying after the third one, like where he got KO'd, then he lost. That should have been the end.
Honestly, yeah. I guess you got it, because he lost 3 in a row. Lost to Tarver, then lost to guy knocked out by Glenn Johnson, then lost to Tarver again.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm curious to see what everybody else. Put them in the comment section, please.
Yeah, for sure. But definitely a crazy knockout fight. And then also you got to look at Marciano. Rocky Marciano stopped plenty of opponents, and he was stopping guys who, you know, otherwise were having, you know, 49-0 with 43 knockouts. That's 87% KO rate.
Right. But what was the level of opposition?
Well, I mean, it depends. Now you're going era specific.
Yeah.
But he fought everybody there was to fight during his era.
Right.
So it's really all you can really ask.
Yeah.
Him, you know,
it's really hard in boxing. It's funny. I saw something recently where guys said, I saw like a little highlight thing where guys said that Michael Jordan today would average 50 points a game. 45. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, so, okay. So there's a guy that would have actually had more success in a generation where guys might be more athletic and have more performance. There's just, I guess there's no way to really know how guys would compare generationally.
Anytime you're comparing eras, you're kind of dealing with some things. But I think the reason why people say that with Mike, I know the reason they say that with Mike is because the rules are different. The game was far more physical. Fouls were not called as frequently. You could hand check in Mike's era. In this era, you cannot hand check, and the games are called much tighter.
Right.
And if you put Mike on the line as James Harden is on the line, Mike's an 85% free throw shooter.
Right. So
and you don't allow anybody to put their hands on Mike and you let him just go free. Yeah. He averaged 37 a game without even shooting threes. So now 3-point shot too. So that for Mike's, his whole thing
Right.
is rules.
Then go back in history, find out how many people Foreman knocked out from rounds 13, 14, 15.
That's true.
Okay.
Then that's an apples to apples comparison because he wouldn't have been in those fights.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, see how many of those guys were knocked out late, where if they were 12 rounds.
None, actually.
Right. But George is a different story. But I mean, I'm just saying, like, there could be cases.
Marciano is definitely that, though. I would definitely say that that's definitely a point there with him because he would wear guys out. And like, so the first time he stopped Jersey Joe Walcott was in the 13th round.
Oh yeah, but I mean, come on.
Right. But
the age gap.
Right. What you're saying. Oh, right. Yeah.
I mean, Walcott was a diminished fighter.
Yeah. That was in 52. He knocked him out in the 13th round.
Okay. But I mean, look, it's interesting. I didn't realize that about, the whole basketball and, where that makes a difference. I wonder how many of these things would be factors today in boxing versus when the rules had changed. Yeah,
actually, it's weird because that's the only knockout on Marciano's record that took place after the 12th.
Okay, so maybe there's not.
Yeah. Who knows?
What about Shavers?
Ernie Shavers, doesn't look like he has any knockouts after the 12th.
Right. And none of my guys ever fought in that 15-round era. Right. Now that I think about it.
It started with Mancini Dooku Kim.
Right.
That's where the rule came from. So, yeah. And that was 81, I believe.
So listen, before I forget, because I don't want you to forget, let everybody know what you're going to be doing with UFC 249 as far as all these videos that they can see with picks and odds and everything.
So actually, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but so that we can continue to make sure you guys know, I am doing the previews and predictions and stating the bet online odds for every single fight on the UFC 249 card. As of right now, all of the videos are posted for every single fight for all of the prelims. They'll be posting the main card videos for the rest of this evening and through tomorrow. So today's Wednesday. By Thursday, all of the predictions and odds will be posted for every single fight on the card. It is a crazy card. It is really crazy. And I'm noticing as I'm going deeper into the card, I'm spending longer breaking down each fight because there's so much information to talk about. So you're really going to probably get a kick out of the Anthony Pettis, Donald Cerrone preview. There's a rematch that the guys fought 7 years ago. So it should be an interesting fight either way, no matter how it works. But absolutely, you can't see those previews, though, and you can't see those odds and predictions unless you go to our YouTube channel and subscribe. So make sure you do that. So that's all we got for you today. As usual, I appreciate you watching. God bless and peace.